Let's get to our top story of the day. The biggest story in terms of scandal in the NBA involving sports betting last year comes with free agent Terry Rozier. Now looks like he's got to forfeit most of his salary for the 2025-26 season because of his role in that sports gambling scheme. That's what they have ruled. Earlier this year that Rozier should have received a salary because NBA rules didn't allow unpaid leave in cases like this. But as of right now, despite him pleading not guilty, right now, it looks like he's going to have to return that salary. And, of course, he has no future playing in the NBA ever again. But he can watch the game tonight between the Knicks and Spurs. And, man, this line is certainly climbing. As of right now, San Antonio has moved up to 6.5-point favorites tonight against the Knicks with a total of 215.5, which is down from opening night in the NBA Finals, which was 218.5. So let's get to some audio here and hear from AnthonyTowns, and says that he doesn't think about taking a 2-0 lead and says the Knicks are thinking that the series is now 0-0.
The difference between leaving here 1-1 and 2-0, knowing that they've come back in a few series already, how important is it to not give them, any hope or any momentum and kind of putting your foot down here and taking that 2-0 lead?
I mean, for me, I don't think of anything like that, the 1-1, 2-0. I just think it's 0-0. And the next game is the most important game of the year. So just continue to stay in the present, not worry about what the future may look like, not worry about what we've done in the past. Just cancel all that out and just worry about the present. Tomorrow we step on that court, should be the same determination, desperation, energy level, and physicality needed for a Game 1 win.
Meanwhile, the other side of the coin, of course, is Victor Wembanyama, who didn't have his best game in Game 1, just says the Spurs need to play how they played during the regular season, and that should tell the story.
Now, what do you think normal means for you guys?
Normal means trusting each other, trusting the basketball guys, trusting the game plan, executing, and not relying on talent so much to make shots or to save the day. I mean, we've been playing a certain way all season, and we've been successful this way, and there's no reason to change the day the finals start.
The biggest injury, meanwhile, in Major League Baseball has officially occurred. It is to Yankees All-Star and MVP Aaron Judge. He's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks with a stress fracture around his rib area. The Yankees do believe that he will return at some point this season. There was some discussion that he had met with a doctor that was involving thoracic outlet surgery, which naturally would end his season. But as of right now, that does not appear to be the case. Aaron Judge going on the IL through the All-Star break without a doubt. Meanwhile, so the Yankees are going to have to win with pitching, and they got it yesterday. Carlos Rodon led New York to a 2-1 win. Rodon struck out 7 in 6 innings. Jazz Chisholm also had a nice offensive game, driving in some runs. Here's Jazz on the pitching performance of his starter.
Jazz, what did you think of Carlos today?
Oh, no, he was back to himself today. He looks like he was out there, good tempo, hitting all his spots. He looked really good.
When you say back to yourself, you mentioned the tempo and the spots, but anything about his stuff, aside from that, the pitches he was throwing, that stood out?
No, I just felt like he was out there with his swagger, He was that bulldog rooster, that we always call him. But, he was out there, he felt good, and he threw the ball really well.
Dodgers and Diamondbacks end up splitting their 4-game series because the Diamondbacks won last night, scoring 2 runs in the 8th to outlast the Dodgers 3-2. It was Ketel Marte's shot that turns out to be the difference maker, walking off the Dodgers with a 3-2 win. Here's Torey Lovullo on the split of the series and the walk-off home run.
He's a beast. He's an absolute beast. And he's looking to do something amazing at the most critical time of the game. So it's just his personality. And I saw Scott warming up. I knew what the rotation was going to be. I knew that there was going to be an opportunity for Ketel to get on that side of the plate where he's been swinging a real hot bat. And I just felt like if he was going to be able to get a pitch, he could end the game in one swing of the bat. So certainly fun to watch. His reaction is always entertaining, but he deserved that moment.
Also in the National League, the Phillies had put themselves in the wild card spot by beating the Padres 6-4. They end up sweeping San Diego for the second time in a week. How about that? Zach Wheeler, 8 strikeouts in 7 innings pitched. He recapped his strong outing against the Padres.
Fastball was played well. struggled a little bit with the sweeper, but a few were good, and a lot of split fingers today. That was working for me. So, I've faced these guys so much that we kind of went about it a tiny bit differently. Usually throw a lot of sinkers in the righties, and today we just kind of stayed away or tried to. A couple of them tailed back in, but it was flying good, even though it was tailing back over the plate, and Manny got me on that one, but I feel like if I would have got that one there, JT's had that, he should have called sweeper, but if I executed that pitch away, I think we would have got him again, or at least the setup for something else. So, other than that, it went really good.
Speaking of walk-offs in the National League, it was an interleague battle between the Cubs and A's going to the Cubs. They win as home favorites. They actually trailed 6-3 heading into the ninth inning, but scored 4 runs to win it. Pete Crow Armstrong hit a home run in the game, and I had a walk-off single as Chicago beats Sacramento 7-6. Here's Dansby Swanson, who had a hit to tie the game at 6.
I think that is this group, right? Just the pass the baton, take your at bat, be committed to one another. Like that ninth inning was like the true embodiment of this group, and it was so fun to be able to see it kind of come out. Like we definitely needed it. It was a big game for us, and to be able to win it in that fashion is something that you can definitely build momentum on moving forward.
Momentum is what the Baltimore Orioles have as they beat the Red Sox and take the series against Boston. 8-2 the final yesterday as Brian Bayo, the Red Sox starter, gave up 8 runs in 5 innings and was optioned to AAA after the game. But the Orioles seemingly had a hot start and have playing better as of late. Here's their skipper, Craig Albernaz, on the hot start.
Early inning struggles this year. How much fun was it to get 6 runs right off the bat?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great job by our offense coming out ready from pitch 1. Obviously, Wardy setting the tone, and it was a great job grinding out bats, getting good pitches to hit, running the bases aggressively, and to give, any starter, but Rod's, a 6-run cushion before he even steps on the mound. Really good.
Meanwhile, the San Francisco Giants desperately needed a series win. They got it yesterday against the Brewers. Final score was 12-9. That's right. The Giants, who generally don't score a lot, put up a 12 spot on Milwaukee. Here's manager Tony Vitello on his offense going off.
Bryce getting on base nonstop. And Luis had a great day too. So it's good Rafi came out here with something. So the whole group was great. The only way you win a game like that is if our offense was as electric as they were, and then you probably needed to sprinkle in some good defense too, which there were several good defensive plays.
Looks like the fans of the National Hockey League are in for a special treat because this series between Vegas and Carolina could go the distance. Both games right down to the wire. Last night, an overtime game as Carolina, the Hurricanes, beat the Golden Knights by a final of 4-3. Seth Jarvis scored the game-winning goal in overtime for the Hurricanes. Game 3 will be played in Las Vegas on Saturday night. And as you can see with the odds, this is really close. Carolina, a light favorite, about minus 125, 130 in some spots. Vegas, a little bit of plus money. Who knows who's going to win this series, but I have a feeling it could be headed to 7. Welcome back to Newswire here on Sports Grid. Game 2 of the finals is tonight. Sam McQuillan will be watching tonight because he roots for the Knicks as they take on the Spurs. But we root for good stories here on the show, and you can find those over at LegalSportsReport.com as Sam joins us to close out the week. Sam, thanks for coming on the show. Okay, really interesting story that you guys posted here over at LSR, which is basically some representatives around the country want some clarity about prediction markets, and they want it from the CFTC. Are we in charge? Are you in charge? Who's making the decisions here? And, quite frankly, I think that this is fair. We got to get some clarity as to if states could run it. Is the government going to run this thing? What exactly is the future hold?
Yeah, it seems to only really be questions and questions and more questions right now, Craig, in this prediction market space, which there's 3 major developments this week in Washington, mainly, where it's becoming, it's becoming increasingly political. It's becoming increasingly charged. You're seeing, last week you saw President Donald Trump take to social media to tout the CFTC's regulation or jurisdiction, rather, over prediction markets, allowing them to, exist in all 50 states and allow people to basically do sports betting under these kind of different rules. While obviously on the other side, you have all the states, I think, almost 20 now suing to stop it. You had 3 congressmen and women this week, all Democrats notably, asking the inspector general to investigate the agency, the CFTC, their legal rationale and the resources when it comes to prediction markets. This letter basically lays out, the case and says, under Trump's tenure, you have to look at when sports event contracts became a thing. It was only 3 days after he was sworn into office. That's when Kalshi first launched sports event contracts. And, kind of after that, everyone else followed. Now it's 85% of its business. This letter kind of says since then, the CFTC has rapidly expanded what it believed its jurisdiction to be. It obviously used to just be overseeing derivatives and financial trading, futures of grains, political betting. It says it's now expanded that, rapidly into sports event contracts, which takes a lot of resources and time and dedication. Meanwhile, the agency just had major staff cuts. It's down about 30% since Trump took office. And it continues to launch these lawsuits, too. We've seen now the CFTC sue 6 states defending its jurisdiction to regulate these products. At the same time, the letter also lays out that it's actually walked back efforts to actually regulate them. So it basically says they're spending a lot of time and money and resources on defending the right to oversee the products while simultaneously not actually overseeing them. Obviously, there's been a number of high profile scandals or cases rather that's popped up in the space, and we've seen other lawmakers on Capitol Hill introduce bills to try to rein in the space. At the same time, this week also Republicans from the House Financial Services Committee had a private meeting with Kalshi, Robinhood, and Polymarket, as well as the American Gaming Association, which has been very staunch against allowing these products to do sports betting on their platforms. It was reportedly a private investigation, which came just a day after a report that former Congressman George Santos is now being investigated for allegedly betting that he would not attend the State of the Union address from the president earlier this year, but then bragging that he was going to. And then I think about 3 minutes into the speech, tweeting out that he had logistics problems. So now the Department of Justice is reportedly investigating him as well. Trump pardoned him a couple years ago after I think it was found that he lied about, being a Wall Street trader, and he was, kicked out of Congress. So this is all becoming more political and more questions are being asked. And right now there's not a lot of answers. I think kind of everyone is looking to the courts to figure that out. But at the same time, we have, over a dozen lawsuits playing out across different states. And I don't know if we're going to get answers on this anytime soon, but it certainly looks like there's a lot more questions kind of every day in Washington. I wouldn't be surprised, in a month from now when we come back talking about the next crazy development or ask or scandal. It just seems like it's happening every day now. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, indeed. All right. Sam, the news is out, and it's not a surprise that FanDuel and DraftKings still lead over all of the other sports betting operators and providers. DraftKings shifted into first place, I know, in 2026, maybe late 2025. Beyond that, you can read the story at legalsportsreport.com. What else can you tell us about this report?
Yeah, there's a firm called Eilers and Krejcik, which hires professional testers to give grades to different sports betting apps twice a year. And they put out this report, which historically has been kind of indicative of how well the apps actually do in terms of market share and, their popularity in America. DraftKings has now led the report for, consecutive times as the number one app, leading in 4 out of 5 categories. That includes things like how fast the app works, how just overall the user experience feels, of course, the reward system and bonuses, pricing is also factored in as well. So historically, whenever DraftKings has led, it's also been, number one for that cycle in terms of, having the most bets that people have placed and also, leading all the other apps in revenue. FanDuel wasn't close behind in second place, which, if you know anything about US sports betting, isn't a huge surprise. It's been DraftKings and FanDuel kind of historically for the last couple of years. More of the interesting kind of changes are that Fanatics is now third. It's been the 4th kind of straight report. So second year, full year of Fanatics being in third. The testers noted that it has a really good kind of reward system. Fanatics has this fan cash system where you can use, earn points on what you bet and, use that to buy merchandise or jerseys or pick rewards. So that was kind of their first innovative thing when they launched. Also, obviously Fanatics is privately owned, so it has a little bit of a different kind of just business dynamic and pressures that maybe the other apps don't have. But the thing that kind of stood out to me, Craig, was that BetMGM, which we used to talk about, is kind of knocking on the door of, maybe they'll get to first or second. They certainly were third for a long time. They're now eighth, according to this report, not only in kind of app performance and how well they're doing overall, but also we've seen around the country their market share has slipped as well. Obviously, it's pretty notable that BetMGM, along with Caesars, is one of the only sports betting apps that has not gone into prediction markets so far. This report doesn't take that into account, the prediction market stuff, but it kind of is, important context with how well these companies are doing. MGM as well as Caesars are both up for a sale right now. So I think they obviously don't want to be having their online gaming arm slip at this time. And then, of course, the last thing I want to mention here is that Bet365 is also slipping, which has kind of gone against the grain. It's, dealt out a lot of promos and entered new states and spent a lot of money trying to expand in the US at a time when it kind of looks like every other sports betting app is not expanding. So just kind of some small, interesting developments to watch as the space keeps developing. Same story of DraftKings and FanDuel at top, and then kind of everyone else is shuffling around a little bit.
The state of Arizona, real quick, Sam, appears to be opening up the door for maybe additional sports betting operators here. Why are they making this move?
Yeah, Arizona has had sports betting since 2021. The Department of Gaming just kind of meets every year and figures out if it wants to open up to more applicants. It's a good question. Why are they making this move at this time? They used to have 18 total sports books. Now they only have 13. A lot have exited the space over the last couple of years, but most of the market is still dominated by FanDuel, DraftKings, Caesars, and BetMGM. So it's a question mark of who could be entering the space at this time. But if you know anything about US sports betting, it's kind of when you least expect something to happen is when it does. That's what happened certainly when Fanatics entered the space and PointsBet exited. So this could be opening up the market for kind of a mystery entrant into Arizona, which has been a really key state for sports betting operators. Low tax rate and a lot of betting. So we'll have to keep watching and see who enters, or if anyone ever does it all. But yeah, it's definitely kind of scratching your head as to why now. We'll see, I guess.
Yeah, maybe numbers are just simply down in Arizona, and they think that this is a way to get people to sign up new accounts, deposits, perhaps. Sam, thanks again. Good luck to your Knicks tonight. We'll talk after the weekend. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Craig. You too.